The gallery was humble, just a converted loft in Brooklyn. White walls and exposed beams, the kind of place that smelled faintly of turpentine and ambition. My latest painting hung near the entrance, a piece I'd labored over for 3 months. The price tag said $800, a whisper of what my work commanded under a different name. "Emma, darling," came my mother's voice, slicing through the soft hum of polite conversation. "Another little art show. How quaint." I turned. She approached like a scene from a fashion editorial, couture suit, precise hair, stilettos echoing on the hardwood. Behind her trailed Victoria, latte in hand, already half lost in the glow of her phone, no doubt captioning a photo, supporting the arts, #family obligation. "Mother, Victoria." I smoothed my deliberately distressed jeans. "Didn't expect you." "We were in the neighborhood after the board meeting," Victoria said, eyes on her cuticles. "Thought we'd check on your career." The word sat in the air, heavy with condescension. They didn't know that across the river, under the name E.J. Blackwood, my work sold at Christie's for 6 figures, sometimes more. 15 years ago, when I told my father I was choosing art over finance, he laughed. "Artists starve," he said, "the winters don't." So I walked away, moved into a tiny walk-up, waited tables, and painted between shifts. My family saw what they wanted, a cautionary tale in jeans and paint-stained hands. What they didn't see was Benjamin Morris, the night he sat in my section, ordered a house read, and spotted my sketches on the back of order slips. "This is remarkable," he'd said, holding up a napkin doodle. "Where did you study?" "Nowhere," I told him, topping off his water. "I just see things." That moment cracked the door. Benjamin pushed it open. He became my mentor, my compass in a world I didn't even know how to enter, and he understood something vital. "The art world loves a myth," he said, "let's give them one." Thus, E.J. Blackwood was born, enigmatic, faceless, hailed as a generational voice. My canvases, bold, chaotic, raw, sold for millions. Critics called them a mirror of modern life. But Emma Winters, she stayed grounded. Local shows, modest prices, a disguise wrapped in humility. "Have you given any thought to Father's offer?" Victoria's voice snapped me back. "There's an opening in the firm's marketing department," she continued. "Something creative, but stable." I nearly laughed. Just last week, Forbes speculated E.J. Blackwood's net worth at over $70 million. "I'm quite happy with my work, actually." Mother sighed, a performance she'd perfected. "Happy? Emma, you can't even afford decent shoes. Your sister just closed on her 3rd vacation home, and you're selling this?" She leaned in. $800? I shrugged. Not everyone measures success in beachfront property. They chuckled, 2 synchronized sneers. "Some of us actually have success to measure," Victoria said. I watched them drift through the gallery, skimming surfaces, misreading everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Benjamin. "Rothshaw wants 3 pieces, $12 million offer. Shall I push higher?" I typed back. "Stick to standard. Donate the difference to the Children's Art Fund." "Emma," Victoria called over her shoulder, "we're heading to Lesser's for dinner, firm talk. You should come. Our treat, obviously." I knew the firm was flailing, had been for months. What they didn't know was that E.J. Blackwood had recently become one of the largest stakeholders in the very bank rejecting their bailout request tomorrow. "No thanks," I said. "I need to be here. There's interest in this piece." Mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, keep at it, dear, maybe one day." They left in a swirl of perfume and quiet derision. Benjamin emerged from the back, arms crossed, amused. "You really don't get tired of this, do you?" "Of what?" "Letting them believe the lie." "It's not about revenge," I said, adjusting the frame of my painting. "It's about truth. They never believed in who I was. If they knew now, they'd only care about what I'm worth." Benjamin nodded slowly. "Speaking of worth, your family's firm, the bank's pulling the plug tomorrow. You could step in." I looked at the painting. My name wasn't on it. Only my truth was. One word from E.J. Blackwood. I turned back to the painting, hidden truths, layers of chaotic color, quiet symmetry beneath the surface. The longer you looked, the more it revealed. "Then, soon is soon enough," I murmured. "But after 15 years of doubt, ridicule, and measuring worth in dollars, do they really deserve to know?" Benjamin's hand rested gently on my shoulder. That's not the real question, Emma. The real question is, what kind of truth are you painting with your life? That night, in my true studio, a sprawling Manhattan warehouse draped in canvas and late-night jazz, I worked under soft light and soaring ceilings. Paint bled across the canvas in bold, defiant strokes. My phone buzzed. Victoria, Dad's panicking. The bank won't budge. We could lose everything. I might have to sell the Hamptons house. I set my brush down. Tomorrow, First Manhattan Bank would formally deny the Winters' final loan request. Tomorrow, my family would realize the last thread holding their empire together belonged to someone they thought they could ignore. Tomorrow, the truth would begin to surface. I picked up the brush again, adding a translucent wash over the canvas, one more hidden layer. Some truths take time to emerge. Winters' investment group sprawled across 3 floors of a Manhattan high-rise, marble, glass, and generational arrogance. I hadn't stepped foot inside in 15 years, but the security guards still recognized me. Miss Winters, one blinked. They're in the main conference room. Family emergency. I nodded, tugging down my paint-splattered sleeves. My closet held Chanel and Dior, but today, I wore the uniform of the life they never valued. The room went still as I stepped inside. My father stood at the head of the long table, shoulders hunched, dignity unraveling. Victoria sat to his right, eyes red, mascara streaked. My mother gripped her coffee cup like a lifeline. Emma, my father's voice cracked. Why are you here? I heard about the loan. I set my worn messenger bag on the table. Thought I should be. Victoria let out a bitter laugh. Came to watch the collapse? Finally get your moment of satisfaction? No, I said, calmly. I came to help. My mother raised an eyebrow, voice clipped. Unless you can conjure $50 million out of thin air, darling, there's nothing to be done. I opened my laptop, scuffed, slow, and real. Maybe there is. Victoria rolled her eyes. You can't even afford your rent. What could you possibly? First Manhattan Bank denied your loan because your assets no longer outweigh your risks, I said, cutting through the noise. But there's one person who can reverse that decision, the bank's largest private shareholder. My father straightened. E.J. Blackwood. We've tried for weeks. They won't respond. No one even knows who they are. A beat of silence. You do, I said. I turned the laptop to face them. At the top of the screen, E.J. Blackwood net worth, $478,932,154. The room froze. Victoria knocked over her glass. My mother's coffee shattered on the floor. This is a joke, my father whispered. Is it? I pulled up images, my paintings, monumental, celebrated, priceless. Look at the signatures. Victoria leaned forward, squinting, then froze. The loops, the slashes, the same quiet details I'd drawn into the margins of my sketchbook since I was 8. All this time, my mother said, breathless, those little galleries, Brooklyn, they were real? I nodded. Just not the whole story. My father sank into his chair. Why keep this from us? Because when I told you who I was, you laughed. I held his gaze. You made it clear I had no value unless I followed your plan, so I built a life without your permission. Victoria spoke, her voice barely audible. You succeeded beyond anything we ever imagined. Yes, and every backhanded comment, every pity dinner, every time you treated me like a disappointment, it told me everything I needed to know. Silence thickened. So what now? My father asked. You have the power to save us, will you? I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. This, I said, is why I'm really here. I have terms. Of course, Victoria muttered. Revenge served cold. Not revenge, I said, evolution. First, the firm will establish a major arts foundation to support young artists from underprivileged backgrounds. My father nodded slowly, hands folded like a man preparing to confess something to himself. Second, your predatory investment practices end. No more gutting small businesses to feed the portfolio. The firm shifts to ethical investment, community-driven, sustainable. Victoria started to object, but my father raised his hand. And the third? He asked. I met each of their eyes, steady and quiet. Third, you learn that success isn't about the number of homes you own or the size of your hedge fund. It's about the lives you change, the truth you stand for, the impact you leave behind. My mother stood abruptly, chair scraping. I braced for another dismissal. But when I looked up, there were tears in her eyes. All this time, she said softly, we thought we were watching you struggle, but you were watching us, weren't you, seeing who we really were? Yes, I said. And who were we? Victoria asked. Her voice was small now, stripped of its armor. People who valued image over integrity, wealth over wonder, appearances over authenticity. I reopened my laptop, a few keystrokes, the transfer approved. My father's phone buzzed. His hands trembled as he read the confirmation. The funds will be in your account within the hour, I said. The foundation paperwork is already drafted. Have your lawyers review it. I stood. Wait, my father said, half rising. Where are you going? Back to my studio. I have a painting to finish. But we have so much to say, to apologize for. I paused at the door. Apologies are like art, I said. They're only worth something if they're real. Take the time, think about the past 15 years, decide who you want to be going forward. My mother's voice broke the silence. And then? I turned back one last time. Then come to my next gallery opening, the real one, at the Met. A pause. Not as the Winters family, not as donors, but as people ready to understand why I chose art over money. Studio scene, very minor refinements for rhythm. That evening, I returned to my sanctuary. The warehouse studio hummed with quiet energy, canvases, scattered brushes, unfinished truths waiting on easels. I resumed my work, a massive piece exploring truth, perception, and revelation. My phone buzzed with texts from my family. I let them wait. Benjamin arrived with coffee and that half-amused, half-inquisitive look he wore when history was being made. How did they take it? Exactly as expected, I said, brushing blue into the corner of a fractured skyline. Stunned, wrecked, realizing they never really knew me. And you? I stepped back, studying the canvas, so many layers, so much silence, so much said without words. Like I finally finished a 15-year painting. Now it's their turn, to look closer, to see what's really there. And if they don't? I smiled and added the final stroke. Then at least I stayed true to my art, both on canvas, and in life. Final note, nearly perfect already, but here's a slight elevation. The next morning, a delivery arrived at my studio. It was the broken coffee cup from the conference room, carefully glued back together, gold veins glinting like kintsugi. Inside, a note. Some things that break can be rebuilt, if we're willing to see the beauty in the cracks. Mom. I placed it gently on my shelf, beside my first paintbrush. Because sometimes, the most valuable masterpieces aren't bought or sold. They're lived. And sometimes, the truest art, is simply becoming who you were always meant to be, even when the world told you not to.